Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Chris. In this video, I'm going to be sharing my blood test results that I had done at a physical a few months ago in November 2023. This is kind of like a part 2 to my last blood test video that I made around a year ago, just to kind of see where my health is at now. I've been vegan now for 5 years, as you saw in the thumbnail, and we're going to just see if your boy is sickly, malnourished, if I'm on the verge of death, like a lot of people say you will be if you're vegan for long enough. So without further ado, let's get into these results. So the first test we're going to look at is the comprehensive metabolic panel. This test looks at the levels of various things in your blood to see how your organs are doing, namely the kidneys and the liver. The sodium was in normal range, potassium was in normal range, chloride in normal range. CO2 and anion gap were a little bit out of range, but we'll get to that later in the letter that my doctor wrote. Fasting glucose was at 90 milligrams per deciliter, normal range. Blood urea nitrogen, normal range. Creatinine, normal range. Albumin, normal range. Total protein in normal range. Bilirubin was out of range, a little bit high, and we'll get to that later in the letter, but that's mostly because I was just in a fasted state. Alkaline phosphatase, normal range. Aspartate aminotransferase, normal range. Alanine aminotransferase, normal range. Calcium, lastly, also in normal range. EGFR, not sure what that is, but it was above 90, which is in the standard range, as you can see down there. And the blood urea nitrogen creatinine ratio was normal, with nothing out of order there. The next test we're going to get into is testosterone. Now, this one's a little bit juicy. So last year my testosterone was like 398 nanograms per deciliter. So this year it was 448. So it went up 50, which I'm happy with, but of course I still want to get that higher. Testosterone was in normal range, 16.84 nanograms per deciliter, and my free testosterone percent was also in normal range at 3.76, and both of those were somewhat on the higher end of the standard range, which I'm happy with as well. Next test we're going to look at is the lipid panel with reflex direct LDL, just kind of looking at the levels of my cholesterol, things like that. Starting off here with total cholesterol, it's at 93, which is super low, and very proud of that compared to most people have quite elevated cholesterol. Triglycerides was at 52, which is in the standard range. HDL was 40, a little bit out of standard range, but my doctor didn't have anything to say about this in the letter. LDL was at 40 milligrams per deciliter, also in the standard range, and very low compared to most people's LDL level. And as far as I know, LDL is correlated with cardiovascular disease risk, heart disease risk, stroke risk. So I'm glad that it's lower instead of being higher. And the last test here is the complete blood count with differential. My white blood cell count was normal in the standard range. Red blood cell count also normal in the standard range. Hemoglobin also in standard range. Hematocrit in normal range. Mean corpuscular volume is at 92. Mean corpuscular hemoglobin is at 32. Mean corpuscular hemoglobin concentration was at 35. It's a little cut off there, but that's a 3. Monocytes is at 0.4. Eosinophils was at 0.2. And basophils was 0. Maybe they weren't able to detect that, but all of those were in standard range. So those are the tests that I had done. Ideally, I wish I had a blood test that looked at, my vitamin and mineral levels, looking at my micronutrient status, but that wasn't available to me. I'm going to ask about that next physical, because I'd definitely be curious to know, where my iron is at, B12, all these nutrients that people tend to be concerned about on a vegan diet. So I would like to see what I can get regarding that next year. But lastly here, I'm going to get into a letter that my doctor wrote about my results. Starts off by saying your complete blood count was normal without evidence of anemia or infection. The results of your complete metabolic panel are normal. Your blood sugar calcium, albumin, protein, liver function, electrolytes, and kidney function are all normal. Your bilirubin is mildly high. In isolation by itself, this is typically benign, related to a fasting state. And he goes on to say the results of your recent fasting lipid panel are normal, and he has some recommendations there which I have achieved in the test. He does say here that there were a few numbers that are only slightly off, but he didn't think they were significant to comment on. And he wraps it up by saying, overall, you appear in good health. Alright guys, that wraps up the blood test results. As you can see, I am not sickly, malnourished, or on the verge of death like I joked about at the beginning of the video. I sleep well, I train hard 5 days a week in the gym, mostly doing calisthenics. I eat a balanced diet, I manage my stress, and I'm just living proof that you can be healthy and happy long term while following a vegan lifestyle. A lot of people are under the misconception that you're just gonna kind of disintegrate and wither away if you go vegan, but that is completely not the case. Eat a balanced diet. Don't be doing this crazy stuff I see people doing, eating only bananas or only eating raw fruits and vegetables for your whole diet, or eating very few calories per day, per week. It's just a recipe for disaster. So just be smart with it, read some books, and do your research. So yeah guys, that wraps up this video. Just a quick and simple one. If you have any comments or questions, leave them down below. I'll get to you. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Peace.